The human stepped cautiously into the dimly lit lab, the floor slick with faint reflections of the harsh overhead lights, and the air smelled of metal, and something wilder, something alive, that made the hairs on the back of the neck rise immediately. Every step echoed in the hollow space, and the predator watched silently from the shadows. Its massive form, a dark silhouette, barely moving but every muscle coiled as if ready to spring. At the slightest provocation, the human froze halfway to the center, scanning the room for any sign of danger, feeling the weight of unseen eyes pressing from every corner. The predator's gaze followed every motion, tracing the outline of the human with a precision that was unnerving yet mesmerizing. Its eyes glimmered with an intelligence that seemed almost human in their depth, and the faintest flicker of a low growl escaped the predator's throat, vibrating through the floor like a distant storm warning of power. Restrained but not contained, the human took another step, and the predator shifted slightly, ears twitching and tail sweeping lazily along the floor. Yet every movement was deliberate, every tiny twitch a signal of alertness and readiness. The human could feel it like an invisible current of tension that pulled the muscles taut and raised the pulse to a rapid pace. A stray drop of water fell from the ceiling, hitting the floor with a sharp tap that made the human jump, and for a moment the predator's head snapped toward the sound, eyes narrowing and nostrils flaring, catching the scent of the human and the scent of the room. The predator lowered itself slightly closer to the ground, muscles bunching like coiled springs, its claws scraping softly against the concrete, and a low rumble began deep in its chest, a warning or a greeting or a test. The human could not tell, yet something primal responded in the chest, a mixture of fear and fascination that drew them closer despite every instinct screaming to flee. And the shadows around the predator seemed to move with a life of their own, darkness shifting and bending as if alive. The human could see the faint outline of whiskers twitching, and the faint glint of teeth hidden in shadow, and for a fleeting moment, time slowed and the room became a theater of anticipation of what might come next. The human dared to inhale, and the predator's eyes followed each rising and falling of the chest, calculating, observing, assessing, a silent communication passing between two beings, worlds apart, yet linked in the stillness and the quiet. Before chaos, in the fragile balance between fear and fascination, and the human felt the first pulse of something electric and unstoppable vibrating through the space, drawing the gaze and the heart closer to the predator than ever before. Where sudden clatter echoed from the far corner of the lab, making the human flinch and stumble backward, heart hammering in the chest, every instinct screaming danger, yet curiosity rooted them to the spot. The predator's head snapped toward the noise, ears swiveling, whiskers quivering as if reading the vibrations of the floor with impossible precision. Eyes narrowed, pupils pinpricks in the dim light, muscles tensed, coiled like springs, ready to explode at any second. The human watched, unable to move, completely captivated by the predator's silent power, and the way it shifted, almost imperceptibly closer, yet not threatening, only observing, calculating, and waiting. A falling metal tray slid across the floor, spinning and bouncing against the wall, and the predator's low growl rumbled through the room, vibrating the air in waves that pressed against the human chest, making it difficult to breathe but impossible to look away. The human swallowed hard and took another careful step forward, and the predator's ears flicked toward them, a subtle acknowledgement of their presence. Its tail swished with a hypnotic rhythm, brushing the floor in slow arcs that suggested both warning and curiosity. The shadows around the predator seemed to lengthen and pulse with movement, as if the darkness itself were alive, breathing along with the predator. The human felt sweat prick the back of their neck and a cold thrill run down their spine. The growl deepened almost imperceptibly, and the room felt smaller, tighter, pressing in from all sides like a cage within a cage. The human's eyes darted from the predator to the scattered equipment, to the dark corners where even a hint of motion seemed amplified, and the predator shifted slightly, its gaze never leaving the human, calculating, anticipating, and the air trembled with unspoken tension. A warning, a challenge, a question, waiting for an answer that only the human could give, and the room held its breath, waiting for the next move, waiting for chaos to erupt or for the predator to choose calm. And the human's pulse raced with every heartbeat as the predator moved Another inch closer, silently demanding attention, testing courage and curiosity, and the distance between them seemed charged with electricity, ready to snap in either direction. Without warning, the predator lunged toward the weakened gate, a sudden blur of fur and muscle that sent papers flying, and alarms shrieking across the lab. The human stumbled backward, heart pounding, eyes wide, unable to comprehend the speed and strength before them. The gate splintered under the force metal, twisting and snapping like thin wire, and the predator shot through the opening like a shadow unleashed. Chaos erupted around them. Machines toppled, lights flickered, dust and debris filled the air, and every sound seemed amplified in a storm of sudden movement. The human froze for a heartbeat and then ran, feet slipping against scattered debris, their chest heaving with a mixture of terror and disbelief. Behind them, the predator moved with astonishing grace and precision, knocking over chairs and barrels, scattering anything that dared stand in its path. Its eyes flicked toward the human, calculating, reading every reaction, every twitch of muscle, every shift in posture, as if inviting them into a deadly game. The predator's low growl filled the space, vibrating through the concrete floors and walls, reverberating in the human bones, making each step feel heavier, yet impossible to stop. The room felt alive and hostile, and the human's mind raced with instinct and fear, and a strange, magnetic fascination, drawing them closer despite the danger. The predator twisted and spun around obstacles, its fur glinting in the broken light, and for a moment the human could almost see the wild intelligence sparking behind, its eyes like fire dancing in darkness. Then another crash echoed as a cabinet fell, and the predator paused mid-step, its head turning slowly toward the human, as if acknowledging the chaos it had created, as if daring them to understand it, to see it, to feel it. And in that instant the human realized the predator was not just a creature of instinct, but a being of awareness and power, a force of nature, unpredictable and alive, and the human could not tear their eyes away, even as the room spun around them, and the first true pulse of fear and awe raced through every vein. The predator bolted down the long corridor, muscles rippling under sleek fur, each step a controlled explosion of power. The human ran behind, stumbling over fallen equipment, heart hammering, lungs burning, but unable to stop, their eyes glued to the magnificent creature weaving through shadows, knocking over crates and scattering papers like autumn leaves. The sound of breaking glass and splintering wood filled the air, echoing off concrete walls like a storm unleashed. The predator's claws scraped the floor, rhythmical and sharp, a percussion of wild energy that made every instinct in the human scream, both flee and follow. The hallway narrowed, and the predator slid through a tight space with impossible grace, tail whipping and head low, eyes never leaving the human, as if testing how far they would push themselves, how much they would dare to stay in the presence of such raw power. Behind them, other humans shouted and chased, trying to corner the beast, but it twisted and turned through the maze of corridors with intelligence that made traps and doors meaningless. It paused only for a breath, its chest heaving, its gaze flicking back to the human for a fraction of a second that felt like eternity, a silent assessment, a question hanging in the charged air. The human felt sweat stinging eyes, hair plastered to the forehead, adrenaline racing through every vein, yet curiosity and fascination refused to let them stop. Their legs moved almost on instinct, following the predator, weaving between shadows and debris, feeling the pulse of life and danger vibrating in the floor beneath their feet. The predator darted around a corner, and the sound of crashing objects followed like a symphony of chaos, and the human knew that in every step, every turn, they were part of something larger, something untamable and breathtaking, and the corridors seemed to shrink around them, the walls closing in with tension and anticipation, as the predator led the way, daring the human to keep up, to survive, to witness the wild intelligence and raw freedom of a creature that refused to be caged. The predator twisted through the next corridor, narrowly avoiding the humans trying to block its path, each movement fluid, precise, like water flowing around obstacles. The human followed, breath ragged, eyes wide, heart pounding, every nerve alive with fear and exhilaration. The shouts and footsteps of the others echoed behind like thunder, but the predator paid them no mind, weaving through shadows, slipping under barriers, and leaping over fallen equipment with a grace that seemed almost impossible. Its eyes flicked briefly toward the human, a spark of recognition or challenge that sent a chill racing down the spine. The human felt drawn forward, unable to stop, mesmerized by the predator's wild intelligence and raw strength. Each heartbeat matched the rhythm of the chase, the room a blur of motion, dust and light. As the predator pushed forward, daring anyone to match, its speed or anticipate its next move. The thrill of danger and fascination burned in the chest like fire suddenly. The predator stopped in the middle of the corridor, muscles tensing then relaxing, as if weighing every decision in that heartbeat. The human skidded to a halt, chest heaving, unable to tear eyes away from the magnificent creature, whose gaze had fixed on them with an intensity that made the air itself feel heavy. The shouts of the other humans faded into the background like a distant storm, leaving only the predator and the human suspended in a moment that seemed to stretch and bend time. The predator lowered its head slightly, ears flicking back, tail curling in a slow, measured arc, as if reading the human as carefully. As the human watched it, every movement was deliberate, every shift of weight, every twitch of whisker communicated a silent intelligence that thrummed through the human veins with a mixture of awe and fear and fascination. The predator stepped forward, one slow step, then paused again, eyes never leaving the human face, almost unreadable, yet impossibly expressive, as if inviting the human to understand, to decide whether to stay or flee. The human's feet felt rooted to the ground, heart pounding, a mixture of adrenaline and a strange magnetic pull that drew them closer even as every instinct screamed caution. The predator lowered itself slightly closer to the ground, head tilting in a gesture almost gentle in the midst of raw power. The low rumble of its chest vibrated through the corridor, filling the air with a sound that was both warning and promise. The human exhaled, shakily feeling the vibration against their chest, against their fingertips. Imagining what it would feel like to touch the creature, to feel the warmth and the strength coiled beneath the fur. The predator's eyes softened for a brief instant, and the human felt a spark of understanding, a wordless communication passing between them, a fragile connection, forming in the stillness before chaos, before movement, as if the predator was testing the human, testing trust, testing courage, and the human realized that in this pause, in this suspended heartbeat, the predator was not just a force of nature but a being aware, alive, capable of choice. And in that realization, the human felt something stir deep inside, a mixture of fear, fascination, and a wild unspoken hope that this moment might become something extraordinary. Step by step, the predator moved, closer, muscles rippling under sleek fur, every movement deliberate, careful, measured, as if gauging the human's courage and patience. The human froze, rooted to the spot, heart hammering, pulse racing, every nerve alive with tension and anticipation. The air between them seemed charged with an invisible current, a force neither could ignore. The predator lowered its massive head, slightly, eyes never leaving the human, as if trying to communicate something beyond words, something unspoken past. In the space between them, a fragile understanding that bridged the gap between fear and fascination. The human dared to inhale slowly, feeling the vibration of the predator's low purr resonate through the floor, through their chests, stirring a mixture of awe and wonder, and a strange sense of safety in the midst of danger. Each step the predator took was a test and an invitation, an unspoken question that demanded an answer without words. The human swallowed hard, feeling sweat and adrenaline mix with curiosity and a pulse of courage that pushed them forward slightly, just a fraction. Closing the distance, the predator's tail swished slowly, brushing the floor, and eyes flicked to follow every movement of the human, in an intricate dance of awareness and patience. The air vibrated with anticipation, the silence louder than any sound, as the predator curled slightly toward the human head, tilting, watching, waiting for the first gesture, the first signal of trust. And the human felt their hands lift almost instinctively, a soft, trembling motion of offering, and the predator's eyes softened, further recognizing the gesture, recognizing the courage, recognizing the bond forming in the space between chaos and calm. The predator lowered itself, slowly, chest brushing the cold floor, muscles relaxing in a deliberate display of trust. The human froze for a moment, unsure if it was safe, heart racing, but drawn forward by the magnetic pull of the creature before them. Step by step, the predator inched closer, until its massive body was mere inches away, its fur warm and sleek, brushing the human's leg in the gentlest contact. The low rumble of its purr vibrated through the floor, through the human's feet, through the very air around them, a deep, resonant sound that seemed to soothe every jangled nerve and ignite a thrill of awe and disbelief. The human reached out, trembling hand hovering over the predator, unsure whether to touch or retreat, and then gently pressed against its side, feeling the incredible power coiled beneath soft fur, and every breath synchronized with the creature's rhythmic purring. The predator shifted slightly, curling its massive body around the human, almost protectively, and the human felt the heat and weight of its presence settling against them, a paradox of raw strength and tender surrender. The corridor around them seemed to vanish, the chaos of broken equipment and frantic shouts fading into a distant echo, leaving only the predator and the human suspended in a bubble of calm and wonder, the predator's eyes half closed, watching the human with a gentle intelligence, as if confirming the bond, as if acknowledging the trust forming in that fragile heartbeat. The human leaned slightly against the creature, feeling the warmth of its body, the steady vibration of purrs against their chest, and a surge of connection unlike anything they had ever experienced, passing silently between two beings, worlds apart yet inexplicably united in that fleeting, impossible moment. The humans who had been chasing and shouting now stood frozen at the edge of the corridor, unable to comprehend what they were seeing. Chaos and fear had dissolved into a surreal calm. The predator lay curled beside the human, purring steadily, chest rising and falling in rhythm with the human's own breath. The human's hand rested lightly on the predator's fur, feeling the warmth and strength coiled beneath every fiber of its body, and a shiver of wonder ran down their spine. The room smelled of dust, metal, and wildlife, yet it no longer felt threatening. The predator's eyes, half closed, flickered open occasionally to meet the human's gaze in a silent conversation that needed no words. The human could feel the creature's trust and awareness radiating through every inch of its massive body, and in that moment they understood something profound about connection, courage, and the fragile bridge between fear and acceptance. The other humans exchanged glances, their mouths open, hearts pounding, yet none dared step closer, knowing that this bond was sacred and delicate. The predator shifted slightly, nuzzling the human with a soft brush of its head, a gentle claim that was neither possessive nor demanding but an acknowledgement of companionship. The human leaned closer, pressing a cheek against warm fur, feeling a pulse of life that was wild, yet tender and impossible to ignore. Outside, the chaos of the world pressed in with alarms and footsteps, but in the corridor there was only calm, trust, and the electric thrill of an impossible bond between predator and human, an understanding that transcended fear and left both forever changed.